James Harden is not happy in Brooklyn. Dun, dun, dun. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is League Talk. If you're new here, my name is Emmanuel Camia, and on here I make videos about the NBA, giving my thoughts, opinions, and analytically breaking things down. If you're into that kind of thing, this is the channel for you. So make sure to drop a sub, leave a like, and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's jump into this video. Also, pray for me. Well, it hasn't even been 6 days, a week yet since I made a video pertaining to James Harden, but here I am again, and this is a video I have to make, and because I have to address something, a bombshell that happened just days ago, and it is about James Harden and his future in Brooklyn. And this comes just days after the story of Daryl Morey trying to get James Harden onto the 76ers dropped just like a week, not even a week ago, it was 5 days ago, and I made a video about that. So if you want, I'll leave a link in the description. Go check that video out. I recommend you watching it. It is a very good watch. It is James Harden, will he be traded to the 76ers before the trade deadline? So as I suspected, James Harden is not a lock and is not going to stay indefinitely in Brooklyn, because multiple news outlets, including ESPN and Bleacher Report and Sports Illustrated, but mostly Bleacher Report, were reporting 2 days ago that James Harden was confiding in his confidants, and he was telling them that he is frustrated in Brooklyn and is going to attempt to explore free agency this summer, something which I too recommend because he's never been a free agent before in his life. And the story I will be referencing is by Sports Illustrated, and it was written by Ben Pickman, and in that story it outlines how James Harden is not happy in Brooklyn, and that isn't just a basketball thing, that isn't just pertaining to the hardwood. It's reported that James Harden is actually not happy living in cold, concrete jungle, rat-infested Brooklyn, as opposed to living, as much as he liked living in central Houston and Texas with the weather and palm trees and all that good stuff. But the major part about this that relates to basketball is that James Harden currently is frustrated with the organization, the Brooklyn Nets organization, and he's frustrated with the coaching staff because of the fluid rotation that the coaching staff, mainly Steve Kerr, has implemented right now. But what's more is he's even more frustrated with Kyrie Irving's status as a part-time player due to his unvaccinated status and isn't able to play games in New York. And to be honest, I'm not surprised at all. Why? Because I was saying this way before the season started, and even before Kyrie Irving came back as a part-time player, that Kyrie being a part-time player just won't work out. Why? Because it creates a lot of inconsistency, it creates a lot of turmoil, and it creates a lot of problems for the organization that they would be much better off without. It makes everybody's jobs harder. It makes James Harden's job harder, and it makes Kevin Durant's job harder because they have to play more minutes, right? It makes Steve Kerr's job and his coaching staff's job even harder because, well, they now have to accommodate for a guy who's there one night and not there one night. So, right? So I feel bad for Steve Kerr. Like, I understand that James Harden's frustrated with him, but really it isn't his fault. He's trying to make lemonade with the lemons that he's been given, right? So I can't really blame him, right? And the only people that I can blame is the front office, the front management of the Brooklyn Nets, because they are the only people with the power to do something about Kyrie Irving, and also Kyrie Irving. And people are going to say, oh, it's Kyrie Irving's choice not to get vaccinated, and I understand that, but you also have to understand that it's a selfish decision not to get vaccinated, especially when you play for a team and you play for something that is a brotherhood. Like, I could understand if you played golf or tennis, but this is basketball and guys need you, right? It is very important that you buy into what they're trying to build, what they're trying to accomplish. What's more is Kyrie Irving not being able to play as a full-time player is very morally draining for a team. Like I said, it's a brotherhood, right? Imagine you, right, a player, James Harden, or any other player on a team, right, who's playing 100% of the games this season, right? And if you guys somehow, by some miracle, end up winning it all, someone like Kyrie Irving, who only played less than 50% of the games this season, will get the same amount of credit. You feel cheated. You feel kind of like you're looking at Kyrie Irving on with the side eye. You're like, look at this guy, right? It's morally draining because you feel like Kyrie Irving just isn't bought into the plan. He hasn't bought into the brotherhood and the mission of pushing to get a championship this summer, right? Because he's there half the time and he's not there all the time, right? So it's like playing with 1 foot out. Like you have 1 foot out the door, like, right? Like, it's very morally draining, and it's hard for, as a player, individually to buy in to the team when another player is seemingly, nonchalant about it, right? And James Harden and Kevin Durant are very smart players, and they understand that this team, especially for James Harden, is one of the closest that he's ever going to get to winning a championship. And Kyrie Irving only playing half the time is very detrimental to that. And you can see it too, because this year the Brooklyn Nets have been pedestrian at best for the amount of talent that they have. They can't even clinch the first seed in the East, right? Teams like Miami, teams like Chicago, they're better than them, right? Especially for the talent that they have, it's looked pedestrian. So what do I think of all of this? What do I think of the story that is coming out? I think that is very interesting, especially when you consider that Daryl Morey just about 6 days ago was in the news about him still trying to get James Harden on the Philadelphia 76ers, right? Because remember, Daryl Morey was the former GM of the Houston Rockets, and when James Harden was disgruntled with the Houston Rockets organization and was looking to leave, Daryl Morey was right there. He was battling with the Brooklyn Nets to get James Harden, but eventually it fell through and never got him, but he never gave up on trying to acquire James Harden. And this story came out just a few days ago. Again, I'll leave a link in the description to go watch that video. But I think that's very interesting that James Harden's story of him being disgruntled came out just a few days after Daryl Morey's story. And I think this is very intentionally done. I think that what's going on here is James Harden and Daryl Morey are communicating to each other and communicating their interests to each other on where they stand, right? Because Daryl Morey can't just go and recruit James Harden, right? Because that's tampering and you're going to get fined. And, he's trying to test the waters to see where James Harden is. And I think that James Harden, in response, is replying to Daryl Morey and saying, hey, listen, I get where you're coming from. We are on the same page. This is, the route that you can take X, Y, and Z. And so I think that's very interesting. And I also think that it's very interesting that this story dropped January 25th or 24th. The timing is very important. I'm going to get to that later in the video. But yeah, I think this story, James Harden not being happy in Brooklyn, was purposely put out for 2 reasons. And I say purposely because, remember, this story was coming from one of James Harden's confidant. This is someone that's close to him. So this is someone from his camp. His camp is letting this out, right? And James Harden's a very smart guy. James Harden's also not a very talkative person to the media in terms of creating news headlines that don't pertain to on-the-floor basketball, right? The only time we've seen James Harden in the news like this is when he was trying to force his way out of Houston. So it's not a surprise to me. It's not coincidental to me that he's again using the same method, and he is using the people around him to convey this message. But again, I said this story it was put out by James Harden's camp for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1, I think James Harden wants something done about Kyrie Irving's status as a part-time player, right? I think he is not content with Kyrie Irving as a part-time player. I don't think him and Kevin Durant aren't content at all, right? They can say all the right things in public, but behind closed doors, those 2 superstars and Steve Kerr are so fed up with Kyrie Irving's nonsense, right? A few months ago, before Kyrie Irving came back as a part-time player, Kevin Durant was asked about Kyrie's status as, being unvaccinated, and Kevin Durant rebutted and said, I don't know, I haven't talked to Kyrie Irving in a month. And that, to me, was the first red flag. Because why? When was the last time you and your coworker didn't speak to each other for 1 month and everything worked out? Never does. That's the first red flag. And I think that James Harden is trying to force the Brooklyn Nets' hand into doing something about Kyrie Irving. I think he's trying to force them to either man up and force Kyrie Irving to make a decision, either stop him from playing or package him, trade him, and get pieces that will come back, that will actually help the organization, actually help the guys win a championship. Because again, I think James Harden's seeing the writing on the wall about this thing, right? And second, I think the reason the story was put out there was because James Harden, right, is kind of waving a flag to other teams, but mainly the 76ers, that, hey, Brooklyn's not a lock for me. I'm willing to leave if the conditions are right. If you come get me, I'm willing to leave, right? I'm willing to jump ships.